Hey everyone, it's Dave and Bo, and we are going to show you the garden this week. It's a very warm Southern California day. It's about low 80s today. And we have, first off, the cherry tree leafing out very nicely. A few blooms. Not sure if we're going to get any cherries from that. This is a sour cherry, if I remember right. I think it's like Montmorency, which is more of a pie usage cherry. We've got some catmint that is in bloom, and that is looking very, very nice as well, along with those still outstanding apricot violas that I couldn't be happier with. This is mirror plant, or caprasma, one of the proven winter varieties. And we still got a couple blooms left there on Lynn Anderson. I have always wanted a Barbary, or Berberis thunbergii for you Latin experts out there. And I got one and two that I put in last winter, and they are leafing out and doing beautifully. This is the yew. That's going to come up and be kind of like just a conical shape, very commonly seen in English gardens. I was hoping that the Chrysler Imperial flowers would just be opening, but they've kind of blasted open in this heat. But we still have a few more buds left. Chrysler Imperial, very similar to Mr. Lincoln. In fact, I want to say they have the same parents. Queen Elizabeth over here, 49er, and that's a beautiful bicolor bloom. Duet, and you see this pretty much every week because it is a rose that blooms and blooms and blooms. I've got to do a little bit of weeding. The pansies have done really well too, despite all the rain that we had over the winter time. It's like every time they came into bloom, they were just destroyed by the rainstorms we had. Now you can also see coming up around the stake, I've got some lilies already coming up. So I'm really pleased. This is a double pink one that is very, very fragrant. It should be in bloom right around the 4th of July. Up top here, I've got Garden Party, which is a really nice, I'm not sure if you would call it white, because it does have that creamy kind of yellow center to it. So it's not a pure white, but it is a good bloomer and one of my favorites. Back here is Tournament of Roses, All-American Rose Selection winner 1988. I told you on a previous video I was working in Pasadena at that time, and so this was one of our best-selling roses. Everyone wanted one, and it is well worth the planting as well. It is grandiflora, so you get huge clusters as well as some single stems, and this will get up fairly tall. This will get up 5-6 feet. I've got some foxglove in the back. I've got some delphinium in the back as well. Now, make sure I don't step on Bo because she's over here somewhere. There she is. We've got, now this is Casablanca, which is going to give us a very large white trumpet-shaped kind of Easter lily-like bloom. Here is almond bush here. And again, that's a plant I have never seen retail before. So I did pick it up, and it's done fantastic. Some dwarf lavenders. Scaviola. Again, I can't complain about how well that's been doing, as well as all the English daisy back here. I am hoping it'll reseed itself enough. Down here at the base, the Philadelphus leafing out. And over here, that is gold medal. Once again, just an incredibly beautiful, vigorous rose. It is one of the foundation plants here. I've had it the longest of any of the roses. This one has opened. This is Touch of Class. It is an All-American Rose Selection winner as well, 1986, I believe, on those. I've got some larkspur coming into bud. The dianthus down below are still looking good, as is that creeping wistringia. This rose bush is Rio Samba, which is a very vigorous bloomer, and definitely you get a lot of color changes in the flowers. Now back here, we've got behind that grassy plant there are gladiolas. Those are what are in the tomato cages. And back here, you can see a bloom on the banana shrub and also some new growth. So I'm very happy with that. Shasta daisy. Oh, look at that. A Centranthus seedling. What a surprise. Lamb's ear. Not a variegated holly, but a variegated osmanthus. We've got some fuchsia. Got a little burn, it looks like, because it is out in a very sunny area, at least in the morning sun. This is Tabernet, Montana, again showing a little bit of burning, so I'm a little concerned, but we'll see what happens next. Over here we do have our dahlias beginning to emerge. We have Beau here, scratching herself on the lily stake and having fun with a errant gladiola seedling. Here's our regular wistringia, and no buds yet, but a little bit of mildew on Caroline Demonico. The bacopa around the apple tree, a couple of the dwarf cypress from Isley Nurseries. This is Crystalline, or Crystalline. She is pure white, and I have to admit, probably my favorite white, although I do like Honor as well. The daylily is coming up. We also have another dahlia over here just emerging, so I'm glad those are making it. The hemlock, putting on all that new growth. That's the lighter color, looking beautiful. We've got the white scaviola and some nutgrass coming up. And then this is Judy Garland. So let's head over to the other bed here. We've got Alina, a little bit more Helen Traubel, just a couple more blooms for this bloom cycle. But I do have over here foxglove that's doing extremely well up against the building and is showing some color. I'm looking forward to these blooming. These are the sandback jasmine. And again, one of those really hardy plants that just does so well are the heather. This is false heather, and these are the white ones, but they are just as hardy as the other varieties. Oh yeah, how can we miss this? Cecile Brunner, just covered in blooms. Vegetable-wise, I haven't done a whole lot. We've got the Anaheim pepper here. Got the Japanese black trifle here. Back in the rose garden, I did have Aroma tomato. Always love those. They're honestly my favorite tomato, even though they are more of considered a paste tomato. I did take the Centranthus out that was around the base of this peony, and now I'm very glad I did it because you can already see the buds loaded up. And I am in Southern California. These aren't supposed to grow here that well. And then this is a new one that I planted this year. And also I've got a dogwood tree. Did not bloom, even though we had a pretty cold winter, but it's leafing out really nicely. Bo agrees. We're gonna head over to the far side. And we've got the pomegranate and heliotrope underneath. The Shasta daisies here are really finally beginning to become vigorous and leaf out for their blooms. Over here, bee balm, which is one of my favorite flowers and honestly favorite plants, because that was so much fun to grow the first time a couple years ago. Over here we've got a beautiful carnation, and even though I'm probably 2-3 feet away from it, it's extremely fragrant. A few blooms left on the columbine. We've got some buds coming up on the alstroemeria, and that's such a beautiful blossom as well. Back in the back here, that is Blatilla, or hardy ground orchid. That is a bulb or rhizome that comes back every year. Had that in the garden years ago. Comes in both pink or blue, and then the pure white. The red variegated chard, or red stemmed, red vein chard. Got the rabbit's foot fern. A much older coprosma there. One of the Japanese maples. So I know I've been saying this for weeks and weeks now, but I need to get in and start cleaning this out, because look at how vigorous that fern has gotten. I did do some pruning on this pittosporum here, made it a little bit more tree-like, cleaned up the undergrowth, because I do have a lavender back there that was getting choked out, shaded out. And then this is a carex, which, you know, I just bought it because it was fun. But it has just been an outstanding plant. Look at how large that daylily has gotten, waiting for the blooms on that to come up. And as well over here, we've got some armeria that is coming up through the ivy, oxalis, fern. So it is also struggling to survive a bit. And now that I look back down in here, we've got some blooms on the ajuga, chocolate chip, which is a miniature ajuga. So it's kind of coming up there. If you want to grow a wonderful herb, this is lemon balm. It's very easy to grow, half day to full day sun. And when you mess with the leaves like that, or you can also take a segment and throw it down a garbage disposal, and your entire kitchen will smell like lemon. So it's got the same scent, of course, as lemon verbena. And then back here, we've got the lavender trumpet vine coming into bloom. The osteos there are pretty well done. And I think that's about all the highlights for right now. I'm gonna take you out to the front yard today and show you part of a video that I filmed earlier in the week. So I will see you next week with a new video. I hope you enjoy looking at my David Austin rose collection. So a lot of people have asked whether or not I have any David Austin roses in my collection, and I do. I'm going to show you some of them here. They're not quite in bloom, and it's just because the weather has been so crummy this winter. But this first one, which is not showing any color, is called English Garden. It's a great compact disease-resistant variety for Southern California. I'll show you the blooms when it comes into bloom. The one back here, that is Abraham Darby. It's kind of a distorted flower there, but normally they're a lot cleaner, lots of petals on them, very fragrant. Abraham Darby does tend to get viruses here, as you can see from the leaves, but it doesn't seem to affect its growth that much. It is a very prolific bloomer for early spring, and that's generally all the blooms I get from it. Over here is Graham Thomas. It's a beautiful yellow. This one, if I had to replant it, would be up against a trellis because it is absolutely a tremendous grower. And as you can see, I mean, it's gonna grow another 2, 3, 4 feet from there. So I do prune it back a lot. The one in front is called Mary Rose, and that's one of the first David Austin roses that was available in Southern California. It is much more smaller, compact. I hate to say traveling at its base, but I don't know if we can get down to see all the different stems that come up. So it's kind of like runners, but stays very compact to the plant. Does have a lot of blooms. As you can tell, it just finished its blooming on the first set. Has one more flower left. The size is about half the size of the Graham Thomas there. One of my friends gave me this rose when he was moving some plants out of his garden for others. I do not remember the name for it. If I do, I'll put it in the description. But once again, a very disease-resistant rose, and it's growing really well. Here is another one that I got from a friend and cannot remember the name of. But the David Austin roses are very vigorous here for Southern California. So make sure to give them plenty of room unless you know that they are a smaller variety like Mary Rose or English Garden. I've also got Sheer Bliss, which is a hybrid tea form here. All of them have just kind of finished their real tight spiral opening. So they're fully open now, but once again, a disease-resistant variety, upright grower to about 4 to 5 feet. And I also wanted to show you my row of Iceberg Roses. Some of them very mature, like this one here has been in the ground for many, many years. Others I just planted because I got rid of a spruce tree here. All those three are new, not new, but maybe a year old. Then we go back to some of the ones that are maybe about 5 years in the ground. This one with the lighter foliage, this is a brand new planting this year. And those last two have been in the ground about 5 years as well. So those are all the roses I have. We'll come over here because it looks like my neighbors are getting a better view than I am of my rose bushes. But Iceberg is a great floribunda rose, blooms 9 months out of the year, and it's one of those roses that doesn't set immediately into rose hips. It just goes right into a new production of flowers. So it's really a fantastic rose for the landscape, and I also recommend trumpeter as well, just as in bloom all the time. So I hope you've enjoyed this part of the video.